and the fundraising and the slings and arrows and all this other stuff?
I think it was just kind of the last 2 years I was there, just kind of always belly aching to either my wife or some friends about mismanagement, things not being doing right, cases I didn't think were handled correctly, police officers I felt were treated unfairly, but it kind of all escalates in April of last year. There's I work a lot with law enforcement, which means I have a lot of contacts outside of Johnson County, and I get a call from the FBI, and they say we've got a potential school shooter in Burleson. And I was like, okay, so they give me all the detail about he's hyper obsessed with Columbine, which is the major school shooting from the 90s. Mm-hmm. He's buying the same clothes. He keeps researching that. What's the closest school to his house? How many schools are in 5-mile radius? What's the highest elevation point in Johnson County? All this stuff. And then it ends with he's already detonated a test bomb in Johnson County. And they go, we need to get a warrant for this guy. And the problem is on the federal side, you can't get a warrant for the bomb. They actually videotaped it and put it on social media, because it didn't have fragmentation. So on the federal side, a bomb has to have fragmentation, which means it has shrapnel it produces. On the state side, it just has to create a loud report that causes alarm. And so we knew we had 27 calls for service that night when the bomb went off. And then we went out, they couldn't find anything, but the FBI had been tracking this guy. And so I sat down with Mr. Hanna and briefed him on that, because we need to get a state warrant to help the FBI get to a state judge, help them, draft a warrant that they could present. And he just said, we're not going to get involved in this. These are kids playing in the woods with souped up fireworks. And everything I just told you is what we told him. And I remember leaving that meeting because he said, don't get involved, don't do anything. He said, and his big focus was, he kept saying, they're going to drop us in the grease, they're going to drop us in the grease. They're going to get him. If there's a case, they're going to make us prosecute it, and they're not going to do it. And I remember leaving.
What's the problem with that?
At the end and where we are right now, I think we're so hyper case focused. But like I said, I'm talking to all the agencies, and they say we're having tons of cases just rejected, whole cloth. And I think there's a stress with the number of people leaving the office and the crime that's going up, just trying to keep the numbers down.
Well, finish your story. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that doesn't make sense, but whatever.
Well, it didn't make sense to me. I mean, this is, I think, a few weeks after Uvalde, and I'm realizing, I'm thinking about my boys and the fact that they're going to go to school and someone's going to be in charge. And if somebody knew about something like this and something ever happened to one of my kids, I would be just beside myself. Mm-hmm. And then I thought about everybody's kids are out there. There are people I don't know. Their kids are going to the school. We don't know what school he's going to pick, but there are kids going to a school. And unless something happens, so something has to be done. And so I left the meeting and I called the FBI back and I said, I can get you in contact with the judge. And here's the statute we're going to use. They drafted the warrant. They hit his house. He confessed to everything. He had 15 pipe bombs with fragmentation.
I remember this happening in our little town of Burleson.
Mm-hmm. And that was the kickoff point. I realized that if you have to have someone in there that's going to take things seriously. I don't know if it's because he's not up on modern culture, what's happening outside of the office of all the school shootings and stuff like that, but that's a hyper-sensitive, hyper-serious situation, and I was just completely floored by how his response was, we just don't need another case right now. If the feds want to do something, they can do something. I was thinking, I don't care who does something, as long as somebody gets this done. I can't believe we're going to do any form of obstruction and not let them get to a judge. They were just calling, they were like, we need an introduction to a judge. And it's, no, don't get involved.
Did you get any repercussions for kind of going around his wishes like that?
I don't know if he did it, if he knew I did it at the time. And by the time it all came out, I didn't get any repercussions because it was a big deal. The case turned out to be, it was the next Uvalde, Texas situation.
I had 3 or 4 of my friends call me because they think I know everything about what's going on in this community. From outside Burleson, not within it. Did you know what this is going on? I just saw this in the paper. I saw this on the news. They live in the Metroplex area, or my cousin who lives out of state was asking about it.
Right.
And, so that was a big deal.
It was, but it's surprising when you talk to people in Burleson, most people until this campaign didn't even know about it.
Well, they weren't paying attention. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of people don't pay attention to the news as much as they used to. Mm-hmm. We don't have a daily paper.
Local.
Yeah, we don't. They don't watch the news much anymore because they think it's trash or it's biased or whatever.
So there's some truth to all that.
Yeah, well, I guess so. But I think people are less informed of what's going on in the world. Maybe that's one of the impetuses I had about doing this in the first place back 4.5 years ago. But they don't pay attention to what's going on around them as much. There was an event over at BHS about 10 days ago. They found a young man in the car with a gun.
Heard about that.
Yeah. And the only way I would have heard about that is I saw it on Facebook. And I don't like using Facebook as a source of my news at all. And so I'd like to know more what's going on. Now, that being said, not much long after all the gossip had taken place, Burleson PD put out their announcements and whatever else. And they put it on social media, and that's fine. But sometimes the people react before the police can get the news out. There was an event yesterday. Did you know about that?
It's actually, I think it was about the same time you were out voting.
Yes, it was. We were coming home, and we live in East Renfro, and we drove by, and we saw about 7 or 8 cop cars, county sheriff, constable, and a drone flying around. I said, this is not something this light thing. This is not a insignificant thing. Turns out it was a active shooter thing.
Exactly.
And schools are locked down around it. It was pretty concerning. I hope that this is not a case that gets kicked under the rug kind of thing.
Right.
And if it's you involved, I bet it won't be. Let's say that you don't have a Democratic opponent.
Correct.
So really we'll know Tuesday night, Tuesday night.
Exactly.
Assuming you win, when do you take over?
So you'd be January 1st, 25.
Okay. That's a long ways off.
That's a long ways off.
Well, it is for you. I mean, you can make a living between now and then.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so what will you be doing?
I haven't got that part figured out. So my time horizon is March 5th, and then whatever happens after that, I don't know. I think it is going to be challenging because most people don't want to hire somebody for 7 months. It's funny, employers want to hire that you're going to work to the day you die for them. So that's kind of the viewpoint. I try to get 2 jobs during this process, but, they all know about the campaign where they found out during the process. And they said, we're looking for something more long-term. It's been impossible to get a job during the campaign process. And I kind of think I'm going to have the same difficulty if I win on March 5th going forward for the next year. So it's the price of doing business, I guess.
I guess. I mean, it really is a sacrifice on your part. Like a lot of the incumbents, let me rephrase this. There's been a concerted effort by certain factors within the Republican Party that's been pushing certain candidates, and you're not one of those candidates, are you?
Correct.
Has that been a problem for you to overcome?
Only in the sense, there's a bunch of wars going on, like you say, within the Republican Party. Mr. Burns' race is a big thing, and so there's a bunch of money falling in there, but in the trickle-down effect, there's a flyer out there, I think it's called Rural Texans, or Conservative Rural Texans, or something like that. They're really just fighting for Burns. But they have a voter's guide, and the voter's guide is everybody that's an incumbent listed below, because they're trying to make it seem like it's not a Burns support pack. And I have nothing against Mr. Burns. But the problem is down the ballot, they're handing this out like these are the only conservative candidates around, but they're just simply everybody that's the incumbent.
The thing is, liberal, conservative, et cetera, how much does that impact the job? I mean, we're not talking about a policymaker. We're talking about a judge.
Right.
And, not a judge, but, adjudicating the law and things of that nature. Does that really impact liberal, conservative? I mean, they throw that around like
I think it can a little bit. I've been asked that question about why does it matter for Republican or, whatnot. Everybody has a worldview, right? And how you view the world and what causes crime and all the things, how you view it causes how you're going to approach things. So if you have a very liberal DA in, let's say, Dallas or Harris County, and they go, theft is just a byproduct of, whatever, so they stop prosecuting thefts.
Well, I saw that in Dallas County. The DA over there said basically you have to, if you commit a misdemeanor under $700 or something like that,
yeah.
$750, that they're not even going to bother. Like, well, that's just basically giving them a credit card.
Exactly. You made it legal to steal under that amount.
Yeah, and I saw that. Was it John Cruzon is his name?
I think so.
Yeah, and I just thought, that's ludicrous. And of course, then you got the DA in New York that's spending all his time, with Donald Trump while they're having people killed on the streets. I think that's what people see.
Right.
They don't want to hear. I mean, I'm thinking, we're not Manhattan, we're not Dallas.
Right.
We're still Johnson County, and I don't see how being a liberal conservative is really going to impact that, because everybody's conservative practically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's like so it's not going to.
I think in our race between Mr. Hannon and I don't think that's the issue.
I don't think so either. Yeah. Well, we're getting close, and I'd like to give you another opportunity to make a commercial, if you will, if you want.
Okay. Well, I'm just simply asking for everybody to go to goodforda.com and just check it out. I would love your vote. I really would. But I want everybody to be informed. I think the worst thing that could happen in this race is just simply getting to the ballot box and not realizing the difference between the two candidates. I think it's pretty important to be an informed voter. And so if you go there, you check out my website. I think Mr. Hannah may have a website too now. Go to his, talk to people, talk to police officers. That's my biggest pitch for me is if you talk to law enforcement, people who actually work the cases, who do they think is going to do the best job for the next 4 years for Johnson County to keep Johnson County safe, which is Mr. Hannah's slogan, but who's actually going to do that? Who's actually going to prosecute not just drugs, but all the other crimes? But that's all I'm asking for, is for people to be informed. I would love to say, all politicians say, I need your vote, I want your vote. I just want people to be informed and then make a decision that's best for them.
Mm-hmm. That's a good ad. I'll go ahead and tell my personal story. Yesterday, like I said, I went and voted. And to be honest, it was, the couple races are no-brainers. I voted for Burns, and, other races, I'll just leave it at that. I voted a few others and whatnot. But when it came to your race, some people I know and respect, older police officers in some cases, supported Dale Hannah. Mm-hmm. But other people I know, younger people, support you. And I ended up, Robin and I voted for you. Okay, and we did that primarily because I really do think that there's too many stories out there of I don't want to say negligence, but just not enough priority on certain other cases. Mm-hmm. And I had heard that story from another source about the bomb, the situation, and how we let the ball drop almost, mm-hmm. and that concerns me. And I really do also think that because of the situation, we've had leadership in these positions for so long that they're somewhat entrenched in these positions and in their way of doing business and the way they think. And there's really very little to change them. I think a change is necessary. So I hope you win.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
If you don't, I hope you get a job.
Me too.
Well, I think you'll probably get some offers afterwards if things don't happen. Do you have any inkling at all how this is going to turn out?
No, I don't. So my emotional barometer is not any indication of factual outcomes. So I have no idea. There are no polls. Everybody asks me that question. Like, how's the campaign going? Mm-hmm. Some people think that early voting, numbers come out and you know where you fall already. No. Everything after 7 o'clock on next Tuesday, numbers are going to start rolling out. And hopefully we know by the end of the night, generally the local elections you do. But no, I have no idea. Signs out in the street, all this stuff is no indication of how this is actually going to break.
Yeah.
So who knows?
It really is tough. The city candidates tell me the same thing. They don't have any real idea, and trying to analyze the early vote is kind of a waste of time.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Because you don't know.
People, reading tea leaves.
It is, or you think, I'll know this person. I know how he votes, and he may end up voting totally different. You never know, so it doesn't matter. But like I said, if my endorsement, my support means anything in your campaign, that's fine.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I really do.
But as far as everything else is kind of out of our hands, isn't it?
It is.
Ultimately, it's out of everybody's hands.
It
right?
is, yeah.
And so, Taylor, you still with us?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm here.
I know. Are you doing all right back there? I mean, I haven't heard much.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. On Thursday, we're going to have Jennifer Woods from Harvest House. Next week, we're going to take a little break from politics, but I do have one candidate coming on Thursday morning. We're doing an extra show because it's really a busy time.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It is, with the local races coming on top of the primaries and such. But I have the Chamber of Commerce on Monday. I have Tiffany Nico with Local Life on Tuesday. And then Thursday in the morning, I have Brandon Crisp, who's running for Place 3. And I had his opponent, Alexa Bedecker, on yesterday, and that was a really good show.
I saw that show yesterday.
Yeah. And then at 11, we have the man who runs Doughboy Donuts.
Okay.
And so
He is bringing samples, right?
Yes, I have asked Robin about that because he does a lot of stuff with Southern Jim. I do have these events, and he'll bring them.
That's off Hidden Creek, right? Is that where the place is?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's right near Wild, and there's several other things like a roasted beaneries there now. And
exactly. Yeah.
Mr. Poke or something like that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Poke.
What is that?
It's I'm gonna get in trouble because I don't really know. It's basically like a deconstructed sushi in a bowl. That's what my understanding is.
I'm not a big sushi fan.
Oh, you gotta try it.
Okay.
It's good.
my kids say the same thing. He said, "Oh, don't be such an old fuddy-duddy." Anyway, we'll see y'all on Thursday.